A warm welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah. So we welcome everyone to our peer exchange learning session, the first in the series, which is on digital payments in agriculture. And it will share lessons from Assam, Kashmir, Telangana. We have senior state representatives. And the topic, what we will see today is how state leadership is critical for enabling a local ecosystem for digital payments in agriculture. I would just like to go over the logistics first. All the participants would be on mute during the session. There is a Q&A box, and we would encourage you to use that to pose your questions. We are recording this session, and we will be sending the slides by email, also the webinar recording. And this will be followed up by specific commitments and actions by all the states and union territories present here on responsible digitization of payments. I would just like you to take you through the agenda for today. Anuja, could you change the slide, please?
सही हो गया? म्यूट है नहीं अपना? म्यूट करो.
Sure. So we have 2 hours planned today. We'll start with opening remarks by Kezom, who leads the Better Than Cash Alliance for the Asia Pacific region. We have Ms. Simi Chaudhary, who's unfortunately unable to attend, but we have Ms. Archana Dureja, who's the Senior Director at MITI. Then we go into the state presentations from Assam, Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Telangana, and another by Rajasthan government, and finally some concluding remarks and key takeaways and next steps. So without wasting any time, to set the background and talk more about today's session. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tanu. And if we can move to the next slide. And the next slide after that. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to all the leaders from across the various states in India to the first peer exchange, a post-COVID-19 learning session on digital payments. आप सबको हमारा नमस्कार है. This peer exchange is organized by the Better Than Cash Alliance in partnership with the Government of India and our technical partner IntelliCap. You will see that this peer exchange is part of a series of learning sessions where our goal is to create the platforms for states to exchange ideas, the extremely good practices that are emerging from so many leaders across the states to support each other to deliver on the promises of digital payments locally. By way of background, the Better Than Cash Alliance is a UN-based alliance with over 80 members from governments, from companies and international organizations who have all committed to responsibly digitizing payments to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. The Government of India joined the alliance in 2015 following the commitment from Honorable Prime Minister Modi, and since then has been a global leader on this important agenda. The topic of today's learning session is on responsible digitization of payments for farmers, who are the backbone of this great nation. We're thrilled to have an esteemed speakers and participants from 15 different states and union territories and from the central government as well. As digital payments accelerate across the country, the agenda of responsible digital payments is ever more important if we are to include the next set of millions of users, many of whom are farmers or employed in the agriculture sector across the country. So this agenda of digital payments, therefore, is not just a Reserve Bank of India or a MITI or a financial service provider's agenda, rather the important leadership that each state play in ensuring that the right public-private partnerships are in place to drive the ecosystem changes on the ground. Firstly, what it means to be fair to farmers and the workers employed in the agriculture sector, many of whom are also women, is evolving with new payment innovations. For example, artificial intelligence and machine learning are powerful tools to create better services, but they also can exacerbate systemic biases and can deepen discrimination, especially for underserved segments like farmers in rural areas. Secondly, the growing adoption of digital payments will generate data in unprecedented volumes, creating both opportunities but also risk, and therefore leveraging this data to understand farmers' behaviors, their preferences, will ultimately create opportunities to drive adoption of digital payment solutions and catalyze the economic empowerment, especially for them. And thirdly, as innovations across value chains, the tremendous number of value chains in the great agriculture sector in India, as they reach the last mile, digital payments are expanding to more and more users on the margins. And therefore, something as simple as recourse needs to be user-friendly, but also requires more sophistication at the back end. For example, when faced with a problem, farmers will require support not only to fix the issue, but also to understand the entire process, which is quite alien to them. So payments matter more to these low-income, at-risk new users, such as the smallholder farmers and women who operate from a baseline of caution due to the higher risk that they face. And so for them, recourse systems can be a lifeline. And fourthly and lastly, there's evidence that as new technologies anchoring the payment systems like AI that I mentioned, they can widen the gender gap by amplifying existing biases. The leading states across India, can overcome these challenges through designing policies, better products and programming in gender intentional manner. And this requires prioritizing women and recognizing that they are a major constituency rather than a niche segment. A successful transition and acceleration to digital payments requires collaboration among a variety of stakeholders in pursuit of an inclusive and responsible digital payment ecosystem. State governments, industry bodies such as the T body that we have today present with us, the private sector, the financial institutions, that includes also the fintechs, they all have a vital role to play in creating a robust ecosystem in which farmers and the laborers employed in the agriculture sector can seamlessly transact through efficient and well-functioning cash-in, cash-out agents and networks that offer increasing opportunities to use their money digitally and reduce the need to convert digital money into cash, access affordable credit without being over-indebted. Encouragingly, so many of the states across India are leading by example. And today we have representatives from Methi, from Enam, from agriculture departments, senior leaders from 15 states and union territories, and 3 states in particular, Assam, Kashmir, and Telangana, will showcase their learnings and together with all the participants discuss some key questions that are relevant across the board, across the country. We also have the honor of hearing from our guest speaker from the great state of Rajasthan. And this brings me to the objectives of today's learning session. As a reminder, and you've seen this in our communication with the chief secretaries across the Indian states, the first objective is to identify the success factors for implementing digital payments in the agriculture value chain, particularly focusing on the leading roles that you play as state governments. Secondly, to distill challenges that you encounter for creating commitments and buy-in from industry stakeholders, including industry bodies, including this contingency of users, the farmers and the farm workers. Thirdly, to identify good examples by state governments implementing responsible digital payments in agriculture. And lastly, to move towards commitment and actions by you in partnership with central government and others to accelerate responsible digitization of payments in the agriculture value chain. So without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Ms. Archana Dureja on behalf of Simmiji at Methi, who has been leading the charge on digital payments on behalf of the Government of India. Ms. Archana Dureja, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Archana ji.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Krishna. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Simmi ma'am could not join because of some important high-level meeting at the last minute. So I am giving this keynote address on her behalf. Actually, it is an honor for me to join. One second. It is an honor for me to join all of you here in this learning session organized by BTCA along with the technical partner Intelcap. The Digital India program is a flagship program of the Government of India with a vision to transform India into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. Promotion of digital payment has been accorded highest priority by Government of India to bring each and every segment of our country under the formal fold of digital payment services. The vision is to provide facility of seamless digital payment to all citizens of India in a convenient, easy, affordable, quick and secured manner. Ministry of Electronics and IT has been entrusted with the responsibility of leading this initiative on promotion of digital transactions, including digital payments. A dedicated DigiDhan mission has been set up in MIT for building strategies and approaches in collaboration with all stakeholders to promote digital payments and create awareness. METI is working with all multiple stakeholders, including banks, central ministries and departments, and states to create an ecosystem to enable digital payments across the country. The market of digital retail payments has grown exponentially with the introduction of UPI. Today, citizens have been provided with multiple options to make digital transactions. Most importantly, the country's response to the COVID crisis would have been incomplete without a robust retail digital payment infrastructure in place. With the digitization of social transfers and strengthening of digital delivery, JAM infrastructure, which we call as JAM Trinity, which is Jandhan, Aadhaar, and mobile, digital payments have today become an integral part of government-driven development efforts, whether it is payment of wages, social benefits, or payments against the procurement. A strong retail user base for digital payment is thus key to ensuring successful delivery of services in a transparent, timely, and cost-effective manner. With the core infrastructure now in place, a supporting regulatory environment, and a robust startup ecosystem, it is now important to explore sector-specific barriers and address issues that prevent the growth of digital payment in these important sectors. Under Digital India interventions, the government has given prominence to ensuring availability of information on various agriculture and allied sector activities to improve the agricultural output. Agriculture in India continues to battle the challenge of low farmer income and declining productivity. There are many challenges faced by Indian farmers, one of them being accessing financial services. Lack of adequate collateral, lack of registered credit history, lack of market information, weak policy, legal regulatory framework, and income variability among farmers have slowed down the development of microfinance and agricultural finance markets in India. Digital technologies can play a transformational role in modernizing and organizing how rural India performs in agricultural activities. The technologies include artificial intelligence, big data analytics, blockchain, IoT, and others as they are developed. Similarly, use of Aadhaar to uniquely identify an individual and manage the delivery of support is another transforming intervention in the farming. Digitized direct benefit transfer to farmers is a vital step as will be the building of a comprehensive digital database of farmers. Digital agricultural platforms can have a critical role to enable access to credit and insurance to farmers. It can address several of the barriers that currently limit the availability of credit to the farmers. Digitized data can provide digital footprints in the form of sales records and purchases to determine the capacity to repay loans. It is heartening to see agri-tech startups taking the lead in bringing smart, implementable solutions to farmers in India. According to NASSCOM, India has over 450 startups in this space. Funding is up to 300% over previous years. The focus is on digital transformation for creating new value chains that are innovative and disruptive. More than 50% of these agri-tech startups offer supply chain solutions, including market linkages and better access to farm inputs. Experts estimate that 9 million jobs in this space by 2024, and most will be in rural areas. It therefore gives me an immense pleasure to speak together with our diverse states on their leadership in digital payments. While we have Assam, Kashmir, Telangana speaking today, please note that each state has been a leader, and there is so much we can learn from each other by sharing good practices and solutions to challenges that are routinely faced when bringing digital payments to farmers. Finally, in our pursuit for higher adoption of digital payments across all sectors, we should not forget to give adequate and timely attention to issues pertaining to cybersecurity and data safety for end users and citizens. With this, I thank you for participating in this learning section and look forward to collaborate with you over the next couple of months to ensure responsible digitization of payments to farmers, especially the smallholder farmers, women farmers, youth farmers, and those that still face the foundational barriers of connectivity, awareness, and literacy and access to devices for transactions. We at MITI and across the government are keen to ensure that common Indians benefit from Indian growing digital economy. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Archana ji, for this inspiring remarks. Thank you on behalf of the Better Than Cash Alliance for setting the tone for today's learning session. So without further ado, we will move to the presentations. To introduce Assam, I'd like to call upon my colleague, Mr. Amit Gurung, who is a senior digital payments expert at the Better Than Cash Alliance. Amit, over to you. I think there might be some connectivity issues that have just cropped up today in his neighborhood. As we know, in COVID-19, we're all working from home and have different bandwidths. If we move to the next slide. Well, please allow me to welcome Mr. Prabhat Kamal Bezbora, who is the chairman of the Tea Board in India, and he's played a pivotal role in the recent digitization of wages in Assam, in the tea estates, working very closely with the industry bodies in Assam, with the state government. Mr. Prabhat, would you kindly make some remarks as we begin Assam's presentation?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that the Chief Secretary Assam hasn't been able to come on board. Sanjay Krishna was supposed to attend this webinar, but he retired on the 31st. We were all expecting him to get an extension, and so was he, I suppose. That's why he confirmed his participation. The new gentleman who's taken over possibly doesn't have this on his agenda. He's just taken over. He must be swamped with work right now. So I'm not. You must remember that I'm not directly representing the state of Assam. I am, a representative of the Tea Board, which is the central government organization. So I will say a few words about digitization in Assam and the Northeast. But my views will be slanted by the fact that I'm looking through the lens of the tea board. And basically, my domain knowledge is restricted to tea. I know a little bit being an Assamese and being from Assam. I know a little bit about the other crops, so I will give my 2 cents worth on what I know about the other crops. But basically, I'll focus on tea. If that is okay,
Mr.
then
Kumar, may I also just recognize that some of our participants are from states that grow tea as well. So
Right.
as you make your remarks, would be great to hear from you some of the emerging lessons that they can reflect on as well from Assam. Thank
Sure.
you.
No, tea board represents tea in all the states: Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, North Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura. Wherever tea grows, tea board is there. But I'm not sure how good a job it does. That's another question. That's a question for another seminar, another webinar. So basically, as far as digital payments are concerned, the tea industry is digital payments are not a stranger to the tea industry is not a stranger to digital payments. Uh, Most of the proceeds of made tea, the sale proceeds, are received digitally. The auctions, which are held under the license of the tea board in Cochin, Kunur, Coimbatore, Calcutta, Siliguri, and Guwahati, are completely digitized, and payments are also completely digitized. The platform is designed and maintained by NSE IT, the IT wing of the National Stock Exchange, on behalf of Tea Board. And I think the entire process is completely digitized from beginning to end. So there's no issue out there. I think that uh, we are following the government of India's thrust. We actually we did it before. Uh, Perhaps the steps taken by us predated Digital India campaign and all that stuff. It predated it, but this relates only to the made tea and the sale of the made tea, where the participants are few and are relatively sophisticated compared to a whole large number of farmers. 50% of India's tea is produced by small tea growers who often sell their green leaf to either composite gardens, that is, gardens who have plantations as well as factories, or to bought leaf factories. These payments are not digitized. The actual small tea growers, as well as the tea board, wish to digitize this entire system. And an app has actually been developed by Tea Board in collaboration with, I can't remember the name of the developer, but it's a very well established uh, company. We have developed an app called the Cha Sahayog or Sahajog, depending on where you are from. And this app has been very, very well received by the small tea growers. And through the app, you can actually derive the percentage, the fine leaf percentage, the price, everything can be got out from the app. And the STGs, the small tea growers, as well as tea board, want to get this app working in the small tea growers areas as soon as possible. But there is a player in the middle who's the aggregator or the green leaf agent who is totally opposed to this digitization, because once it's digitized, bottling factory or the composite garden will pay the small tea grower because it's his leaf. So the agent will get squeezed out in the middle. Now what happens is we pay the agent and the agent pays the small tea growers and the agent makes a hefty commission. So I think where we need to focus is find a niche within that char sahajo gap for the greenleaf agent, because you can't do away with middlemen, whatever the government's intentions are. Uh,
Absolutely.
Middleman has a very sort of a time-honored status in society. Most some of the biggest companies in the world started their business as middlemen, right? So we have to find a way of modifying the app to get a space in it for the middlemen, and then I'm sure we'll be able to implement this. The third area where the tea industry should is trying to focus on digitization is payment of wages to its workers. As of now, about 55 to 60% of the value of the wages are paid in kind by the industry. But with the advent of the code on wages, the cow, and the what is the other one called? The Occupational Safety and Health Hazards Act, the two historic acts that were passed by Parliament. Uh, Payment of wages in kind is kind of frowned upon by the new uh, laws of the land, and the tea industry also will have to move towards a much larger percentage of cash payment, and then it would be more worthwhile. It already is worthwhile, but it would be more worthwhile to totally digitize the payments and the payroll. And the industry wants to do it, is committed to do it. The problem is that, at least I can speak for Assam and other northeastern states like Arunachal and Nagaland and Tripura, banking infrastructure is extremely poor in rural areas and especially in the tea garden areas in these states. And we have repeatedly tried to pay digitally, and we've had a lot of problems, logistical problems, as well as labor problems, because when the money goes into the workman's account, thanks to the Jan Dhan Yojana, which was done by the government I don't know, 6 years back, I suppose. Thanks to that, many workers do have accounts, but subsequently KYC norms were altered, and workers had to validate their accounts by producing various kinds of identity proof, and many of them failed to do so. Often not because they don't have the identity proof, but they were just too sort of lethargic to make the trek to the bank and show their KYC documents when they had other things to do. So their accounts have become dormant, and we can't use the accounts to credit their wages. And furthermore, they prefer getting their wages in cash because they get the money and they spend it. And it's actually very bad. It's leading to a whole lot of social evils. I don't know whether any of you know that tea workers in the northeast and in North Bengal were actually imported by the British from central India, from what used to be called Chota Nagpur, which is an area spread over Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Maharashtra, and Madhya Pradesh. Quite a large area. So most of the workers were fetched from those areas, and the British who developed this industry in India. Tea is endemic to eastern Assam, but the industrialization of tea happened under British patronage. So when this happened, they fetched these workers from basically this area, and they retained them in these inhospitable climes by sort of they already had a tradition of consuming alcohol in those areas. So the British encouraged them to consume more alcohol, and alcoholism is a big problem among tea workers. And when they get cash in their hands, the women who are much more socially aware cannot save that money. The men just drink it away. So it's of great importance to digitalize wages, but it's not unless banking infrastructure improves, it won't happen. I attended a meeting chaired by the Honorable Finance Minister. I can't remember exactly when, maybe around 9 months back, 9, 10 months back, in Calcutta, where I pointed out that we can't make payments by digital payments or check payments. We can't because there's no banking infrastructure. So the tea industry should be exempted from the 2% cash withdrawal tax because it's just a kind of imposition on us when we want to do it, but we can't. But the
And
government
Mr.
can be
Kumar,
very stubborn.
what
So
was the response?
the response was that she summoned the lead banks for Assam, Tripura, who were United Bank and UCO Bank, I think at that time, as well as State Bank of India. She summoned the managing directors, the CMDs of UCO and United Bank, and the chief general manager of SBI based in Calcutta at that time, and kind of what's the word? What's a very diplomatic word? Rebuked them about their inability to extend adequate banking infrastructure in the tea area. She rebuked them rather severely. And so for a month or two, for a month, maybe some activity did take place and a few new ATMs were put in. I think in Assam about 80 ATMs were put in, and in North Bengal about 10 or 12 were put in. That's, that's nothing. In order to service 1,500 tea gardens, you need about 2,500 ATMs, and the problem is those ATMs won't be profit centers for the banks. So banks are not really interested in doing it. So,
Mr. Prabhat,
yes.
may I just interject here?
Yes.
Because there's a great set of slides that we have prepared together with the state government of Assam, and as you acknowledged, unfortunately, the former chief secretary retired just a couple of days ago and cannot join us. But I think from what you've shared with us, the sustainability will require significant partnerships because banks alone cannot do it, even if there's great willingness from both government as well as the banks to really create the economies of scale and to create the access points where digital becomes better than cash is the right utopia to reach. Secondly, what you mentioned about connectivity and the foundational infrastructure such as identity. I think these are important learnings as part of really accelerating adoption of digital payments across the states. And lastly, I think the Assam experience has taught us how important it is to take the middlemen along and create them and transform them into positive forces. So, Mr. Prabhat, may I then request that our colleague Abhishek, who is from Intellicap, who's been working intensively with the state government officials in Assam to really present back Assam's story to our participants today.
Sure.
If he could get started with this sharing, and we'll of course request you to come in and share some additional insights, particularly the remarkable ones where you've been able to create some amazing changes. With this, may I hand it over to Abhishek?
Sure. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prabhat.
Thank you, Kizom, and thank you, Mr. Prabhat. That almost sets the context in terms of what we had found out in discussion with the state of Assam on the state of digitization in the tea industry. What I'll do is in the next few minutes, divide the presentation into 4 key areas, starting very briefly with the overall importance of tea industry in the state, moving on to the extent of the cash transaction that happens along the tea value chain. And then I'll briefly talk about some of the initiatives that the government of Assam has been undertaking in order to promote digital payments. And finally conclude with what are the key next steps or areas where more support and partnership is required in order to move ahead in this direction. So with that, I'll quickly sort of focus initially on the first part, which is about the tea industry in Assam. And as you can see from the slide in front of you, Assam contributes over 50% of the tea production in the country. And that sort of gives you the idea about the scale in which tea is produced and how central it is to the entire country, as we all are big-time aficionados of consuming tea as our preferred beverage. Now, not just from a tea production perspective, but also it is a significant contributor to the state's GDP, contributing almost 5% of the GDP in the state. Now, the interesting point, and one that we're all concerned with most pivotally, is the number of people that are employed in this industry in the state, and that's close to 7 lakh. And more importantly, this is an industry where a large percentage of the population that's engaged are women, and therefore it's an important source of livelihood for almost 60% of the workers who are women in this value chain. Finally, in the entire value chain, right from the input purchases to the sale of made tea, our estimates suggest that the total value of cash transaction is over 20,000 crore, 222 billion to be precise, which is about 22,000 crore and a little more. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Now, of this 20,000 crore, essentially the value of cash transaction can be looked at three distinct points. One is if you look at the small tea grower, a lot of them manage sell the green tea leaves to factories. And this transaction in a large percentage of cases is cash based. Some estimates seem to indicate that the value of cash transaction based on sale of green tea leaves by small tea growers to the factory is over 33 billion, which would be somewhere in the region of 3,000 crore rupees. Now, in order to grow these green leaves, these small tea growers make two types of payments, which are cash-led. The first payment is the payment to the laborers or the tea workers who work on the estate. The total value of these payments in cash are estimated to be about 36 billion or a little over 3,600 crores. The second payment that these tea growers make in cash is by way of purchase of inputs required to grow tea in the nature of pesticides, fertilizers, saplings, so to say. And the value of cash transaction on input purchase is estimated at about 12 billion or a little over 1,200 crores in INR terms. Finally, in the last leg of the transaction, which is where consumers such as us purchase tea from the stores, the total value of retail sales is estimated at close to about 170 crore, out of which cash sales account for almost 90% of the sale and therefore are a significant contributor to the cash-based transactions. Now, we know that there have been several initiatives that have been undertaken in order to promote P2M transactions or transactions between consumers such as us and the merchants. So the government of Assam has essentially focused on ensuring focused its attention on ensuring that the payments to the laborers or the tea estate workers are digitized, because that can set the tone for a large portion of low-income communities to start accepting money digitally. And as Mr. Prabhat was suggesting, that a lot of the social evils that stem from cash-based payment could potentially be addressed if this section starts getting payments digitally, and then basis these digital payments can be gradually moved towards making payments digitally as well for their own expenses, which would then kickstart a next wave of savings in the bank accounts and data history that Archana ma'am was alluding to at the start, which becomes a pivotal pain point for formal lenders to be able to underwrite this segment and provide loans. So therefore, it is quite important to see why the state of Assam focused on digitizing payments to the workers and what steps it undertook. And therefore, on the slide, as you see, the first intervention that the state of Assam undertook was to provide incentives to the tea estate workers. And this incentive was a way of method to induce the motivation to accept payment digitally and move towards the behavior change element to start trying or accepting payments digitally. The motivation was afforded in the way of a cash incentive. So the government promised a payment of 2,500 rupees, which would be transferred to the bank accounts of workers who start receiving their wage payments in their bank accounts. Now, the scheme is called, is part of the Assam Chai Bagicha Dhan Puraskar scheme. It is currently in its third phase right now in the state. So far, almost 7 lakh accounts have been credited with the incentive that the government set up for accepting digital payments. And a total of 182 crores have been transferred to the beneficiaries digitally to their bank accounts as part of the incentive program. Also, what the government has done is in its third phase, the incentives have been increased to 3,000 rupees from 2,500 earlier. Can we move to the next slide, please? Right. The second initiative that the state took was, other than incentivizing the recipients, it also started incentivizing the payers of the money. So the tea state owners who were engaging these laborers, they were incentivized with an amount of INR 100 rupees per laborer, in whose accounts the money was being remitted directly rather than being paid in cash. So far, this initiative has resulted in payment of close to 7 crore rupees to the various tea state owners as part of the incentive mechanism. Next slide, please. So with this, we come to the next part of the presentation in order to understand what the state of Assam was able to do in order to additionally create the enabling ecosystem beyond just the incentive payments to trigger digital payments. And there are 4 key pillars on which these ecosystem-led initiatives were supported or based on. The first was on an appropriate communication strategy, which focused on building awareness amongst the private sector participants, which is the tea states and the gardens. As part of this, deputy commissioners from the state had meetings with the tea garden owners and their managers to spread knowledge about the importance of making digital payment and how it could lead to a beneficial scenario for both the payer as well as the recipients. The second activity focused on partnering with the banks in order to ensure that the beneficiaries had bank accounts in which the monies can be remitted. And more than 8 lakh bank accounts were opened as part of this initiative to ensure that the recipients are in a position to receive money digitally. The third ecosystem-led approach focused on working with the tea associations as well as with the banks to create cash-out infrastructure so that people were not inconvenienced when they were receiving money in their bank accounts and therefore did not have to travel long distances to be able to withdraw money in order to make expenditures. And finally, the all-important point of low internet penetration in hilly areas that tea gardens are known for, or in remote areas where internet connectivity is weak, the government entered into partnership with RailTel in order to establish broadband internet connectivity so that the ATMs as well as the micro ATMs that were being set up as part of this process could function seamlessly. Next slide, please. Now, this slide sort of gives an overview of what Archana ji and Prabha ji were suggesting in terms of the cash out infrastructure. And as you'd notice that both the ATMs and the bank branches, due to the nature of the landscape or the geographical constraints, have been below par compared to the national averages. And that's where a lot of work is currently being undertaken in the states in partnership with financial institutions. Again, internet penetration is something we've touched upon, so maybe we can quickly move to the next slide, Anuja. Right. We've also briefly looked at the Jan Dhan account, the Aadhaar-based seeding as well as mobile seeding as part of the JAM Trinity. And again, what you see here is that while there has been continuous improvement in the number of accounts that are being opened. I think there are challenges that still need to be overcome when it comes to Aadhaar seeding and mobile seeding, where a substantial piece of work still remains to be done. For instance, on the Aadhaar side, almost 28 million accounts still do not have Aadhaar linkages as of 2019. And similarly, almost 15 million or a little more than that do not have the mobile numbers connected to the account for seamless connectivity and usage. So that's an area of work that needs to be focused upon as we move ahead in this initiative. And these problems are all the more exacerbated when we look at the labor situation and their account scenarios with respect to both Aadhaar and mobile linking. Finally, this brings us to the key challenges that has already been discussed and summarized here. The number one challenge that has been spoken about enough has been the paucity of ATMs in a state where there's a requirement for more than 1,000. We are currently at about 490 odd ATMs, which means that a lot more needs to be done by the financial institutions. And we have to work out a suitable incentive mechanism for them to be able to do that more aggressively. The high transaction failure rates has been another problem, with transaction failures being close to 50%, which has been a demotivator for a lot of first-time users of digital incomes or payments. And therefore, what can be done in order to address, first identify the reasons behind these failures and then address them is a critical need of the hour. We've also talked about the softer issues that have plagued the uptake of digital payments, such as the linkages of the Aadhaar, the KYC, and then the infrastructure challenges given the nature of the terrain and the remoteness of the geographies. Next slide, please. Right. That brings us to the next steps in terms of how or what needs to be done to move ahead. The JAM indicators is an area of focus that the state is actively looking at and trying to ensure that more and more accounts are connected with the Aadhaar and the mobile numbers so that the micro ATM, the AEPS infrastructures, and the fintech partnerships can work seamlessly. More and more use cases need to be developed. That's where fintechs or even the existing financial institutions need to come in to create customized savings products and showcase the advantages of gradual savings over longer periods of time. For instance, developing goal-based products such as savings for education, higher education of the children, or savings for marriages, could be an instrumental initiative in inculcating the practice of saving money digitally and therefore openness towards receiving and making digital payments and incomes. Finally, we need to find a way to ensure that the agents who are involved in the value chain are also suitably rewarded and their interests are aligned so that they are also supportive of this digitization initiative. And that's something we need to have broader discussions with these agents on and address or allay any concerns that they may have. That brings me to the end of our presentation.
Abhishek, thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks, Keza.
Discussion.
Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Abhishek,
Yes,
hello, Abhishek.
Yes,
Abhishek,
please.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now, Kizom. Please tell me.
Abhishek.
Archana ji.
Yes, I have.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Can I say?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Abhishek, I just wanted to know one thing. Okay, their Aadhars are not linked with the accounts, but are their mobiles linked with the account?
So again, in very few percentage of cases, only about 33% cases in case of the workers, we found that the mobile numbers are actually linked with the accounts.
Because you are aiming at AEPS or that kind of, Aadhaar linked payments and all, but there are other methods also available like UPI and all where you don't need Aadhaar, no? If your mobile number is linked with account number, that is enough.
Correct, which is why we say that the challenge exists because both the Aadhaar seeding as well as mobile seeding is comparatively lower in the state. As you see in the slide in front of you, the total mobile seeding or the total percentage of accounts where mobile numbers are updated is only about 34%, moving slightly from 2018 to 19 by 1 percentage point.
So how we can do this? I am not able to understand. Means banks should take lead, or how should we do it? How to get these mobiles linked with the bank account so that they can make use of digital payments. Different methods are available as on date, lot of things. UPI, it is an asset light model. It's very easy to operate.
Correct. I think
Okay.
that's something we need to figure out as to how do we drive this Aadhaar and mobile seeding in order to drive the uptake and make cash outs really easy for the workers. Because right now the additional challenge is digital payment in this segment is also problematic because one, there is a need for education in terms of being the ability to use applications, having smartphone, having internet in those smartphones. These are all concerns, which is why digital payment in this segment will take some time. And before that, it's really important that the incomes are digitized and then people are able to take cash out for their spending habits so that they feel more confident and then gradually move towards digital payment as well.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for that question. And thank you, Abhishek, for the very insightful presentation. I now like to ask a question to all the participants from the tea-growing states. If they could share with all of us their experience in the digitization of the value chain in the respective geographies, and if there are any specific challenges or barriers they feel where the center might play an important role in helping them address the same immediately. I would now like to invite anybody from the state of Karnataka, Arunachal, Mizoram, as well as Manipur. I believe we have participants from these states. If you could please share your experiences in the digitizing initiatives.
Amit, I think your question, you were breaking up slightly, so let me repeat your question. We have participants from other states where tea is an important agriculture produce. Our guest from Karnataka, Horticulture Department. What has your experience been digitizing wages in the tea sector in Karnataka? I'm receiving some messages that the connection is not very good today. Perhaps we can come to these questions again towards the end of the presentations. I will request us all to move to the next state. With this, if we could move to the next slide. This is where we have a picture that we're all going to take. Tanu, over to you. I think Tanu wants us all to switch on our videos so we can see everyone and have a nice screenshot learning session as if we were all meeting together in person. May I request all our participants to please switch on your videos.
Right. I'm sorry I spoke all of it while being on mute. So another reality of virtual. Just 1 second.
You're sitting in a big office.
How about the participants? I see many of them. Yeah, okay. They're more now.
So Tanu, I think this is all we're going to get.
Yes.
Should we just let us know when you're done? Wonderful. We have more going online. Thank you, Vinayji. Let us know when you're done, Tanu.
Sure. I think this is it. I don't think the participants would have their video on. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Wonderful. We will request Anuja to please share your screen again, and let's move to a discussion on the apple farmers in the Great Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Ms. Prerna Saxena. She is a senior expert who is based within the Ministry of Finance, working very closely with the ministry on digital financial inclusion with a particular focus on gender. Prerna, over to you to introduce this part of the session.
Thank you, Kezom. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I once again welcome you to the webinar, and now we virtually move to a very beautiful place on this earth, our Jammu and Kashmir, which is not just famous for its natural beauty, but also is one of the largest producers of apple. With more than 80 billion of rupees of revenue and more than 29% of its population dependent on apple industry, it is definitely a high priority for not just the government, but for all other stakeholders who work closely in this industry. And of course, the government of Jammu and Kashmir has shown tremendous leadership in taking up several measures, including the implementation of market intervention schemes, which led to direct procurement of apple from farmers and also resulted in making digital payments to them. The government also worked hard on creating a robust cash in and cash out infrastructure, and has been supporting the industry even during the difficult times of COVID pandemic. So I would now like to very warmly invite Shri Jahangir Hashmi ji, the Additional Secretary from Department of Horticulture, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, to talk about the various ways in which the government has been supporting the industry and working towards digitizing the payments of apple farmers. Over to you, Hashmi ji. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here, Hashmi, Additional Secretary in the Government of Jammu and Kashmir. There was a request before it that we need to switch on the cameras, but there's some issue with the app itself. The camera is not getting on, although microphone is getting on in the switch on mode. But
we're sorry about that, but very, very warm welcome. Thank you for joining.
And I'm not able to get your voice is also breaking now, because during the earlier presentations it was okay, but I am not able to get where you are speaking. But I'm assuming that I'm take cover for the presentation. Since this particular and this whole event is as regards to Jammu and Kashmir, it is for the Apple. So yes, Apple is the most critical sector on which the economy of Jammu and Kashmir depends. There are uh, assumptions, and we all know that Kashmir is famous for the tourism industry. But if we'll go deep into if you'll break the economy and see the real facts on the ground, it's actually the Apple which runs the economy of the valley. I mean, not only Apple, but other skill sectors like crafts and other. But Apple is one of the critical wheel of the economy of Jammu and Kashmir. Um, the size of apple cultivation has enhanced tremendously. If you'll see that, in 1959, only 10,000 hectare of land apple was produced. Today, it has gone to 1.65, 1,65,000 hectare. And the production in way back in 1959 was just 12,000 metric ton. Today, we are 2.3 million metric tons of apple. That too, our calculations are based on the real time basis. I mean, it is not, you are not able to actually calculate on ground how much produced. The real time estimation is that, we have till last year we have taken a method actually how many vehicles have been crossing the borders of the J&K and what weight that carries. When we calculated the whole sum, it was 20.5 million metric ton, which was exported outside Jammu and Kashmir. Then we comes to, Jammu and Kashmir contributes to around 85 to 90% of apple produce of the country. So this small ball of few 10 districts in around 15,000 square kilometer, it produces half of what United States of America produces. If you'll see, the United States of America produces around 50 lakh metric ton of apple, 49 point something, but Jammu and Kashmir produces half of it. So there you can what is the scope and the potential of the apple. Now, where we lack is actually with current production being current production, even if we'll not expand the production, this particular webinar or event is focusing something that if we will take the current production, certain things have to be done by which we will enhance actually the income of the farmer, and the income of the farmer will go double his income given this production. So that means there is a problem in the value chain. So how that problem is, that I will come to later. If I'll see in this slide itself, I have already told you 1.65 lakh hectares is under apple cultivation. The share of total fruit acreage, we have, the other fruit, unique horticulture is product is almond and walnut. So, but apple is around 70%. So the key production clusters are, most of the apple is produced in the Baramulla district. It is around 4.75 lakh metric ton. And then it is followed by Shupian. It's around 3.5 lakh metric ton. So the overall contribution to the gross domestic product from horticulture sector is around 10%. And the average revenue from sale of apple, as we did it real time basis last year, which got exported, is around 10,000 crore, 9,800 crore was the actual number. If we'll see that the total population of Jammu and Kashmir is around 1.25 crore, and out of 1.25 crore, around 33 lakh are directly or indirectly dependent upon the horticulture sector, and more are so apple. Because apple supply chain, you get an apple, there are labor people available, and if you then see the transportation, the number, because Kashmir Valley doesn't have a train yet, so all the apple gets transported on trucks, and truck has a particular size. I mean, you can't move the big trucks through Himalayan terrain. So they are small trucks. Therefore, the number of people, the truck drivers, his cleaner, the other, the travel agencies, if you'll involve then alone, if you'll see the cart box industry for packing the apple. I was calculating the real-time numbers. It was 950 crore is actually the money involved in that cardboard industry associated with Apple. So that's how it comes to be directly and indirectly. Then you take the family size, it comes to be around 3.3, 33 lakh. And that's close to 30% population of the whole state, which is dependent on Apple. So can we move to next slide, please? Yeah. Then, as I earlier mentioned, there are supply chain constraints. The most problematic supply chain constraint is the movement of apple from valley to outside. And you will be it is a unique problem. You'll be surprised to know it's not because of some political climate or anything like that. It's the tough Himalayan terrain. We have a national highway between Jammu and Srinagar, and it is between Banihal and Ramban in the national highway stretch, which remains closed for days together, even in a even in summers. Forget about winters. Sometimes it remains closed for 1 month. So the apple is shelf life of apple is around which we have is around 2 to 3 months. So sometimes the apple which gets packed late, that remains in the truck for 1 month's time in the valley. That is the major challenge. That is the major supply chain constraint challenge. The second thing is the problem is that this 2.2 million metric ton, which I am saying, if our total production is close to 2.3 or 2.4 million metric ton, our storage is just, we are trying to do, we have taken a lot of steps. The government has been proactive in increasing the storage. We need around 50% subsidy for making the storage. There's a subsidy in the mid Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture, Government of India. But we have, that was 25% of the project cost. But given the nature of criticality which we have, this application, we have this given the so the total cost mentioned for building CS is 50% now. Roughly, if you have to make a storage of 5,000 metric, it requires a cost of 20 crore. If you have 12.5 crore as a subsidy component. Now, given that we have achieved mark of 1.5 lakh metric ton of CS storage in the nation. So, why the CS storage are target is to enhance to 5 lakh metric ton in another 3 years. Why the CS storage is critical? Because this whole apple goes to the rest of the country and outside country within a time period of just 3 months. So when the bulk is more, the price comes down and there's no regulation and the farmer income is less. So that is the critical relation. So what we want to do is, by building more CS storage, we want farmer to empower the farmer, to give him independence, that as and when he wants to sell his apple, he has a this facility available. He can hire that facility, place those apple there, and when he wants to buy, he can sell. Now the good thing is that we have recent initiative under Atmanirbhar Bharat, in which Operation Green is top to total. In top to total, the support for hiring the apple for 3 months, 50% cost will be borne by the government. So apple is one of the for J&K, apple is eligible for that cost. So that is being taken care of now, though these supply chain issues are being taken care of by these new initiatives. And then yes, there was a problem this year. We have scabs and all, so that was due to the fertilizers. The weather was, climate was not good, so we had a problem in that. Last year, what happened that there was certain political uncertainty and there's certain security challenges. and there was a problem in marketing of the apple. So since there was a problem, there was middlemen, and then there was distress sale. The people were, apprehensive that since we are all aware what happened last year. So people were apprehensive whether somebody will take my apple or not. There were threats, and other things. And then government of India came to rescue. We introduced market intervention scheme for the apple. It was first time in the history of Jammu and Kashmir that market intervention scheme was introduced. So under the scheme, apple has to be procured on optimum prices based on the prices of last year. So how it was implemented, if you'll see the data, last year our target was to buy 12 lakh metric ton of apple from around 3 lakh farmers. But it could not be met. There were few reasons, because the harvesting season for apple starts in the last week of August. The scheme was introduced on 10th of September last year. But before the harvesting starts, what happens that these middlemen are the people who, the sellers, they do the agreement with the orchardist in advance, and they pay some advance payment or something like that to most of these farmers, and then that is already a set norm. But what happened because of MIS, that is critical to note. Although only 15.9 thousand metric ton of apple was procured through MIS, what happened that it worked as a kind of insurance for the farmers. It is very critical. It suddenly stopped distress sale. Now, farmer was telling the person who was there, the middleman, that look, if you are not going to give me the price on which we agreed, then I am going to sell my apple in the MIS. So that that stabilized the apple market. The private trade took off very, very enormously everywhere. This distress sale was totally arrested, and it helped. So we should not, if somebody will calculate the quantum of the MIS, or that only less than 1% of apple was procured, but no, the quantum was not critical for us. The criticality was that it actually worked as an insurance for the farmers and the growers. In apple, in MIS, what happened that the Aadhaar card, the bank account, and other details were given to the NAFED, was the agency, and the buying agency, and one of my directorate was the nodal agency. We took the information like Aadhaar card, bank account number, and the payment was made directly to the accounts of the beneficiary. Direct DBT was done. So in the price was fixed by a price fixation committee based on the market rates prevalent in various mandis during the past last year. So the similar, then there was a quality and grading control committee constituted of local officers who used to grade the apple, that whether there are 3 grades of apple, usually the A grade, B grade, and C grade. A grade is the apple which has a higher price. Then there comes the B, and again in A, B, and C there are varieties. One is delicious, one is golden, then is Maharaja, then is American. There are a lot of varieties of apple, which are which are produced in Valley. So these committees was there, and luckily this scheme was extended this year as well. Although again this came very late. It has just been launched before 3 days. Now already we are in the middle of harvesting season, and this scheme has been launched. And again, this model is there that everything, the payment is directly going to the account of the grower through DBT mode, and there is a registration process. We have to make online registration, since there is a problem of bandwidth in Jammu and Kashmir. You all must be aware. We don't have a 4G this thing. So we have established our own counters in different mandis and different places. The government has designated different officers in all horticulture and agriculture zones where registrations can be made. They take sometimes manually, and then there is a data entry operator who enters those informations. One, the Aadhaar and the bank accounts are linked, and then the payment is made directly to their account. This time with NAFID, as the agreed mechanism is that the payment under MIS will be made within 8 days, within 8 working days, once the procurement will be done. As you could be, in earlier slide, you must have seen. Please go to the previous slide. You must all have seen that the Jammu and Kashmir has the better ATM and bank presence than the national average. We have, if you'll see, the ATM presence in J&K is around 18.7 per million population, whereas the national average is 15.3. So we are better in the financial inclusion. There's no issues deep into the Apple trading, Apple producing clusters. There are a number of banks. J&K Bank is there. The other banks, J&K Bank has a deep penetration, and our all schemes are linked to the J&K Bank. And then lot of people and most of Apple growers have these bank accounts and Aadhaar cards, because we have certain schemes. For example, if in input side, we have something called high density plantation scheme. High density plantation is that we this is in consonance with the Honorable Prime Minister's target of doubling the farmer income. But by way of high density plantation, we assume that the farmer's income in Apple side will not double, but it will go at least 4 times. So that is again through DBT mode. The subsidy given in the high density plantation is in DBT mode. Because there is that's a unique model in high density plantation. For a plant, government gives subsidy, and farmer has to contribute 10%. So farmer has to first, there is an account is opened in the name of farmer. The farmer will contribute 10% to that account. Government will contribute 90%, and then that 90 plus 10 will be contributed by the two agency, and then it will go to the entrepreneur who will give the plant. So it's all bank transaction. There is no direct connection with the entrepreneur or the grower. So the schemes are mostly through DBT mode now. And there is a CSC network. We call them service, and we call them khidmat centers. They are there for helping and facilitating the growers if they require some sort of help and technical know-how. But mostly, going off this presentation, I'll tell you one important thing to note, that as regards to the apple production in Jammu and Kashmir, it is now considered the most return-oriented farm practice. And our officers who get retired from the services, they go to this. They actually take this apple orchard, apple producing. They go and do this farming because, and then most of the apple marketing is private. We all know that there have been recently 3 farm bills have been introduced, by way of which direct marketing has been made possible. And the APMC acts have been, although the APMC, whosoever wants to do the marketing through APMC Act, they can also go to the mandis. But I'll inform you all that in Jammu and Kashmir, the apple marketing was done directly for decades. There was no restrictions of doing the taking your apple produce to the mandis and then sell them. So there is a direct marketing, and most of the trade is private. And then I checked, I had discussion with this team earlier as well. For the last 2 days, I have been checking with these apple growers. Lot of apple growers have their bank accounts and they do the transaction through banks. But many have not. Now, the government doesn't have any control. We will try to learn from other states and other experiences how to, completely facilitate the digitization of this private trade, because it's not in our hand. It's a completely private trade, except for MIS. In MIS, market intervention scheme, which we have introduced, it is completely DBT. And for those schemes which we are giving for the encouragement of apple cultivation or high density plantation or CA storage, that is also completely DBT mode. But as regards to the private trade, we have to learn from other states how they actually in private trade, how they go for DBT, or how they go for complete digital switchover. So as I already told, this slides is about this execution challenges of MIS. The only challenge which we have is that it has been started late. Had we been knowing, that it would be started, we would have started working for it from May, or the real time to announce such scheme for Apple would have been ideally May or June, so that all the growers who do their own agreements with the private traders, they would have shown the interest in it. But the second thing is that there is a difference from north side, from Baramulla side. The apple comes very early. I mean, it starts harvesting in August itself, first week of August itself, from even last week of July sometimes. From south side like Anantnag, Shupian, the apple comes in late August. So if the apple starts harvesting in July, last week of July, from the major cultivation hub like Baramulla, where most of the apple is produced, then introducing the scheme at last week of October or in the middle of September will obviously have challenges, because farmers would have already sold their yield to the buyers in advance, because they have to get prepared. The second, I think digital payment, and it has some sort of problem, is that last year when we started MIS, you were asked immediately that get your Aadhaar card, get your bank account, and there were certain cases where bank account was not linked to the Aadhaar card, where Aadhaar card was not made. So since it was suddenly started, there were of course the challenge as well, although that was not much, but that was also the challenge. So that's all about the similar challenges we have this year. But I was listening to all the earlier presentations as well. There are, I think all the states can jointly, request. We have a platform available for DBT. We have Aadhaar linkage, be it, I was listening to this Assam presentation as well, be it Assam tea or in Karnataka or Kerala, wherever it is. We have an established platform. That is PM Kisan. I'm also Director PM Kisan for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Under PM Kisan, each farmer is getting the direct support everybody of us know, and each farmer has an Aadhaar card and bank account in which the DBT happens. That platform can be used everywhere. It's not so. That way, I was thinking that in Jammu and Kashmir there are around 13 lakh farm operating families, and the PM Kisan today has reached to 10.6 lakh. 10.6 lakh unique farmers are getting the direct support under PM Kisan. So that means I have the bank account and Aadhaar card and that data and that seeding, with me right now. So that leverage I have. So, but I have to learn from the side of Jammu and Kashmir. I have to learn how I will actually facilitate the complete digital switchover in the private trade of Apple. That is something which we will try to find out and learn from other states, because our Apple trade is 99% it is private. There's no way of, we only facilitate like these programs of MIS, but as you could also see from this data, from this presentation, last year even the MIS only could get less than 1% of total trade of the Apple. So 99.5% it is totally private trade. So how to get into that, the state has yet to learn. We have to learn from the practices of other progressive states, how to get into that. That's precisely, if somebody wants to ask some question or anything, I'm ready here to reply.
Thank you, Hashmi ji, for such a passionate presentation, and it is so encouraging to hear how Government of Jammu and Kashmir has been managing all challenges related to storage as well as connectivity, while also linking farmers' accounts with Aadhaar and mobile. Thank you so much. And of course, the point that you raised about involving private sector, definitely we may have that discussion amongst ourselves, or maybe there is a need to involve private sector into design of procurement right before the procurement season starts, and seeing how they could benefit with the digitization of whole value chain. Maybe there's a need for engagement of all stakeholders. What do you think about that? Maybe the government could invite private sector and have some conversation.
I am not telling about involving the private sector. I mean, per se, my my understanding for this whole event is that we have to find out the ways, and we have to see how much government is leveraging. Different state governments are leveraging to digitize the farmer trade. Simple. I mean, to get the farmer trade on the digital platform. Now, I am saying that since we are discussing Apple, since most of the Apple, more than 99% trade of the Apple is through private trade. There's no, I mean, the buyer and the seller are doing it privately. So how the government can leverage that private trade to get digital, if that is not, that is something we need to learn from other states. I mean, so because the MIS is new to Apple, and you'll be surprised to know that this year I am seeing that I'm getting the reports, the A grade Apple MIS, nobody is coming to sell, because the rate which we are giving around 60 rupees per kg for the A grade Apple, the farmer is right now selling at 80 rupees per kg. So they're not coming to us. For B and C they are coming, but for A they are not coming. So, I mean, the farmer is himself empowered, that he's knowing that, look, government is giving just 59 or 60 rupees. I am getting here in private trade 70 rupees. I'll buy there. So I will sell there. So, but how to convert, I mean, how to ensure that he does it digitally, we need to learn from you all. The private, how can we facilitate and leverage, because we can't actually implement something, we have to facilitate something, because it's Apple trade is completely private, and we want it to flourish private, because private, we want to empower our grower to get more this capacity building, that he can we have started eNAM as well, eNAM in 2 mandis. But this is something which is we need to learn from you.
Sure. So we had invited our government from Himachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh also, who have a sizable amount of Apple production. I'm not sure if they are participating, because from their names it's difficult to make out. But if there's anyone representing government of Himachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh, would anybody like to share, or anyone else would like to share any thoughts on the discussion right now? Any comments? Yes. I believe somebody from Telangana is wanting to say something, but it's not very clear. Sorry, sir, I can't hear you very well. I don't know if others can hear you. Mr. Reddy, are you trying to say something?
Mr. Reddy, your audio is bad. You're not audible.
Even Government of India level, which stands by its word, 6 months నుంచి 1 year వరకు delay అవుతుంది.
Prerna, if I may suggest, Mr. Hashmi had asked a very important question that, as agriculture is largely sold in, with private sector partnership, and some of the starting of the implementation of INAM in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Our next presentation is on INAM and Telangana's story. I believe we already have our colleagues from Telangana on the line.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy, can you hear us? If Mr. Reddy is facing some connectivity issues, we could move to our guest presentation from Rajasthan before Telangana. Would that be okay? Amit, I will request you to please kindly introduce our speaker from the great state of Rajasthan.
Thank you, Kezam.
Thank you.
Good evening once again to everyone. As we all know that Rajasthan is a state that is known for the innovation that they bring at the state level, not only for their own scheme, but also for all the schemes that are proposed by the center. They are known for their resourcefulness. They're also known for the execution. But I think most known for their foresight of how things are going to evolve. I've had the pleasure of working very closely with the government of Rajasthan on multiple initiatives, including Bhamasha as well as Mitra. So I am very, very happy to share with you all that we have Dr. Shankar Babu, Deputy Director of Agriculture from the government of Rajasthan, with us today, who will be sharing his experience at the state level, and we look forward to hearing from him today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. Government of Rajasthan provides subsidy to farmers for creation of agriculture infrastructure and also as compensation in case of damage due to natural calamities. The Department of Agriculture, Government of Rajasthan had launched single window platform for digital payment of subsidy to the farmers using Jan Aadhaar. Jan Aadhaar is akin to Aadhaar, but this ID card is provided to every family of the state at the local level, with which Aadhaar and bank account are linked. So in our Rajasthan, more than 90%, the Aadhaar coverage is more than 90%. Similarly, the Jan Aadhaar coverage is also comparatively good, because all the rural households are now having their Jan Aadhaar. That is, our ID card is linked with Aadhaar and bank account. So we are facing very little challenge in linking accounts with some ID card or there some unique ID. Most of the bank accounts are linked in our state. A single window, as I said, means this is a platform for agriculture department, horticulture department, agriculture marketing department, and also for animal husbandry. We are also including in future animal husbandry, dairy, and cooperatives also. My voice is audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir, we can hear you,
very
sir.
loud and clear.
Now, on this single window platform, next slide, please. Single window platform, the farmer applies online either through self login or through citizen service center. The information of the farmer, like his name, his village name, bank account, all address, all these are fetched from ID Jan Aadhaar card, that is citizen identity card. We are also integrating with land record system. After submission of the application by applicant, it is visible in the account of the dealing officer in the department. Then dealing officer online scrutinizes that application, and if application is found complete in all respect, it is forwarded to field functionary, that is field level official. The field level officials are provided with a mobile app. The physical verification means the verification of the site is done online through that mobile application. The field functionary goes to the site and takes the selfie and verifies all credentials of the farmers, that is his land record and all that, and geotagged photographs are submitted on the spot, and immediately that is reflected again in the dealing officer's account. Now dealing officer examines all that record submitted by the field functionary after verification. Then online administrative sanction is generated, and that is e-signed, and message is sent to the system sends automated message to the citizen that your administrative sanction has been issued. Kindly go ahead, construct your farm pond, establish your pipeline, or purchase some agriculture asset like that. After that, when farmer constructs the asset or purchase the asset, then he submits a reply on the system through a link provided to him while sending the SMS. Then our field functionary again visits the sites for final verification of the created assets through that mobile app, and he submits his report through the mobile app with complete photographs, geotagged photographs of the asset. Now again that application comes in the account of the dealing officer. He prepares online financial sanction, and as soon as the sanction is e-signed by head of office, that is forwarded to pay manager. Pay manager is our integrated financial management system, that is the bill goes to the treasury, and treasury makes the payment in the account which was fetched by Jan Aadhaar detail through Jan Aadhaar detail of the applicant. So in this way, the complete process of the subsidy disbursement, right from filing of the application, scrutiny of the application in the office, field verification by the field official, and finally disbursement by the treasury. The complete process, that is end to end, is digital nowadays in Rajasthan. For agriculture department and for horticulture department, it is under process. Similarly, it is under process for agriculture marketing department. So for around 10 subsidy programs we have initiated this, and some others are in pipeline, because this is a 5-year project. In the next 3-4 years we will mount all these schemes and programs, whether it is state funded or central funded, on this single window platform. Apart from this, the subsidy is also provided to the farmers for the damage due to natural calamities, that is called input subsidy. In this case, when a natural calamity is there and damage is there at farmers level, then our land revenue officials, revenue department officials visit the site. He prepares the list of the such affected victims, affected farmers, and then submits it to the higher official, that is Tehsildar, and that list is verified by Tehsildar and submitted to the collector, and collector then sends it to Department of relief. Then after that Department of Relief verifies it, then it is sent to Treasury for payment. So this is also DBT, complete DBT, end-to-end DBT, right from initiation of the subsidy process by the field official at the local level till the disbursement of the subsidy. Next, please. Around in the last 2 years, around 2,326 crore has been disbursed through this online process, and more than 33 lakh farmers have been benefited from the state. So this is how we are doing it, and this is our new initiative in the field of agriculture. This is not very much old, but it was initiated in the month of January this year. But slowly we are trying to include all the subsidy schemes on this portal. So hard copy of the files or the application forms. So what we achieved is a simplification of the application forms. Most of the details are get pre-filled from Aadhaar database, that is the ID card provided by the state government, and no need of the hard copy of the application forms. Similarly, complete geographical jurisdiction, that is mapping up to village level of the departmental functionaries there in the system, and Aadhaar based OTP mechanism is there for online submission of application form and verification of the credential of the applicant. Similarly, complete transparency has been ensured as messages are being sent to farmers for each stage of subsidy distribution process. Tagging based physical inspection and verification is also there through mobile apps. Reduction in turnaround time of subsidy distribution, and the complete process is paperless using e-sign, that is digital signatures. So digital transfer of subsidies directly into CBS enabled bank account of the. So this is complete story in short about Rajasthan digital payment process. Similarly, not only this, we are making so many provisions for digitization of the other things, and also linking, integrating the various portals like PM Kisan, like Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, that crop insurance portal, with our portal of the state government, so that complete database of all the farmers can be there in our system. So also we have made so many apps, like informative apps for the farmers. All the details of the schemes run by state and central government are just on the click of the button with the farmers in the form of informative mobile app that is named as Raj Kisan Suvidha app. Similarly, buyer seller app is also developed for organic produce, and so many reforms has been done. Government to government for the process of government to business. Now licensing of the inputs, that is seed, fertilizer, pesticides, that is also under process. Online licensing, no need, the input dealers need not to come to office, need not to come to visit any office for obtaining his license for inputs. So this is going on in Rajasthan. Thank you very much. Any other question? Please welcome.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure we'll all have questions, but we'll probably reserve them towards the end of the presentation. May I now request our colleague from IntelliCap, please start the next presentation.
Amit, if I may interject here, I think Mr. Reddy is still online. Mr. Reddy, if you can hear, can we start with Telangana's presentation? And as we wait for Mr. Reddy, just to say that, you know, these are such inspiring initiatives and great demonstration of leadership at various states. We're hearing about so many today, but there are so many more. And I think Mr. Hashmi and our colleagues at the Tea Board from the central government also had started asking some really important questions about what can we learn from each other around engaging with innovators and fintechs. What are the foundational pieces of MIS pieces that state governments can lead on to connect to the digital payments infrastructure as it continues to build out, particularly in the rural areas and those that have not had that access previously, but with a very strong commitment from the Honorable Prime Minister, it is a reality that is soon emerging as we speak. I see that Mr. Reddy is still on mute, and with this, perhaps I will request our colleague Abhishek, who's been working very closely with Telangana, to please just start us off on Telangana, and we'll hear from Mr. Reddy when he comes unmute again.
Sure. Can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. I'd like to start with a brief overview around the key agriculture crops that the state produces, and you would see that paddy, cotton, and maize rank amongst the top three. Total revenue generation from these crops in the state is close to 1.35 lakh crore, and there are close to 55 lakh farmers in the state, almost 55%. Constituting almost 55% of the working population. Next slide, please. Right. With that as a context for agriculture, once we start looking at the lens of digital payments, it becomes very important to understand about the basic infrastructure and whether the communities that we are talking about, which is the farm community, how well entrenched are they, or how well connected are they with the banking system. And that's very refreshing in a state like Telangana, because you'd notice that in terms of the cash out infrastructure, the state ranks quite well above the national average. Has a substantial BC network as well to complement the ATMs and the bank branches, where there is an existing challenge that needs to be improved upon is the internet penetration. But other than that, even the mobile subscription and the Aadhaar penetration is really high in the state, which lays the foundation for building up any digital payment intervention to be successfully carried out. Next slide. Right. So why does cash create a problem in the agri value chain? I think it's important to quickly look at a couple of key reasons and how the use of cash leads to loss of income for farmers and then forces them to rely on informal lenders, eventually resulting in a debt trap because of the high interest rate burden and the unscrupulous recovery practices, which scares people into taking more loans to pay off some of the earlier loans. Now, what happens typically in the agri value chain is there is a significant delay between the actual sale and the realization of payment. Quite often, it's about 15 to 30 days across different value chains and depending on the buyer-seller relationships. And this results in sort of a dependence on informal lenders to borrow money in the interim, because in the absence of any credit history or banking track record, formal lenders are usually hesitant to approach this segment. The second reason that we need to look at is quite often in the mandis, the farmers are also shortchanged due to faulty weighing systems that are adopted. And this leads to lower realization of the actual sale proceeds. Now, these factors together combine for some of the reasons why the cash led model leads to losses, and also the existing purchase and sale transactions in the mandi leads to lower income for the farmers. Next slide, please. With this, let's take a look at the role that ENAM has been playing with its inception. It currently covers 18 states, 3 union territories in India, and more than 1,000 mandis. Currently, more than 175 commodities are being traded on the platform. There are more than 1.67 crore farmers registered, and over 1,44,000 traders who are on the platform, alongside close to 84,000 commission agents who are also part of this platform. The total value of transactions in terms of digitally settled amounts is close to an INR 660 crores. And this payment has been made to more than 1.2 crore farmers across the state. Next slide, please. I'll also quickly check if Mr. Reddy is available now and he can hear us and would like to take us through the rest of the presentation. Mr. Reddy? Okay. Well, till we wait for him, I'll continue with the slides. Now, within the overall ambit of ENAM's coverage, Telangana remains one of the major success stories, having successfully onboarded both parties to the platform, which is the seller that we're referring to in this case are the farmers, and then the buyers comprising of traders and the enablers in the form of commission agents. The state has successfully onboarded around 18 lakh farmers and more than 5,000 traders on the platform. The total volume of transactions has crossed 30 lakh metric ton. The value of these commodities that have been transacted exceeds almost 9,000 crore, of which 63 million has been directly settled by way of payments in the form of e-payments across 19 mandis. These e-payments have been made to about more than 1,000 farmers. Some of the mandis have also been recognized as the mandis with better implementation than the rest of the states. The Right of Bandhu scheme is again something that the state has been working on and has shown stellar performances. If you notice, there has been a year-on-year increase in the number of farmers who've been onboarded in the scheme, which provides investment support to the farmers, starting from about 50 lakh farmers in the Kharif season of 2018 to more than 51.5 lakh farmers in the Kharif season of 2019, and then close to 58 lakh farmers in Kharif season of 2020. There has also been a corresponding increase in DBT payments, starting from almost 5,000 crores in 2018 to about 7,300 crores in 2020. Again, the state has been widely recognized and appreciated for these measures, has been winner of some prestigious awards that you see on your screen. Next slide, please. Similarly, there was a corresponding program to provide group insurance to the farmers, and that scheme has also benefited a large number of farmers in the state. Total as on date, almost 37,000 farmers have been onboarded with close to 2,000 crores of money being directly paid to their bank accounts as part of compensation. Uh, Again, well recognized across the country for the initiative on this front. Next slide, please. So there are multiple advantages that ENAM offers to various stakeholders. Our focus for now, if we just look at the farmers' benefits or the benefits to the traders, then you can see that there has been a corresponding decrease in the post-harvest wastages because of lower holding period and lower transaction cost, better price discovery mechanism, leading to more confidence in the part of the farmers, lack of distress cells, all of which have gone on to benefit farmers in terms of enhanced earnings. Uh, you'll also realize that the initiative has led to better storage facilities as farmers have better visibility on the demand and supply scenarios, allowing them to take better informed decisions on when to take their products to the market vis-a-vis holding them back, given the demand and supply scenarios that are readily available to them via the applications. For the traders, I think the incentive to the traders to make online payment to farmers is something that has to be looked at in greater detail, alongside the importance of making payments to traders at the time of purchasing through the platform. I think there are some challenges here that need to be addressed, and maybe once Mr. Reddy is available to speak, he can guide us or share some more light on these topics. With that, we come to the end of this presentation. Over to you, Amit and Kizone.
Great. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Wonderful. Welcome to this learning session, Mr. Reddy, and thank you so much for your time. We have together with us 15 different states across India, and we were just hearing from our colleague from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir that they had just started implementing INAM in 2 districts. And you know what Telangana has been able to achieve has been remarkable. Mr. Reddy, would you be able to share a little bit more about, you know, what is the particular role of the private sector, in particular fintechs, in the INAM program?
The role of private sector, because it is 50%. Suppose farmer and a platform, or buyers or commission agents. If they also participate, then the loop is complete. And otherwise, it is not. So it has that challenge. Therefore, there is a need to build their capacities, number one, and also give incentives to them and mobilize them and bring them into the loop. Then it will be a win-win, both for the farmers and also for the government and also for the purchasers.
That's a really important point, because in Assam, we had just heard about the very influential role of middlemen in the tea sector. What are some ways in which Telangana has empowered and incentivized these people in the value chain?
Yeah, definitely. If Telangana was one of the states who came forward to implementation of this INAM, So from starting from Nizamabad and Khammam, I accidentally four and a half years back also, when it was in the starting stages, I was the commissioner, and now again I came. Mm. Mm. Um,
Sorry, Mr. Reddy, your connection is not very good. I think all of us across the country are facing
okay.
similar challenges today.
Okay.
So what are the specific actions you think state governments can take to incentivize middlemen or these important influential actors in the value chain?
No, one is some financial incentives if they can give, and otherwise for them also the participation itself is an incentive, because the most competitive, and then it will also save the price of going to various places and sitting elsewhere. Telangana has been implementing this e-tender, for example, tender on e-office for last 20 years, and it has been most successful. A person sitting in Calcutta can file tender application for laying a road in Hyderabad. So similarly, for a produce with audio-visual mechanisms and all that, so a person need not go physically there, no intimidation, and no logistical problems, no corona problems. So depending on his requirement, on the quantity, etc., he can participate directly, and then in fact, he can purchase the commodities and sell the commodities.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Reddy. I wanted to open the floor up for additional questions from other speakers and states. Mr. Jahangir Hashmi, would you have any questions for Mr. Reddy or for other speakers and participants today?
No, my only I don't have any question. My only request would be that just let us know, just facilitate us your best practices by which we can actually make this private trade of Apple digit take to digital platform, uh, and but that has also a challenge that you have to we have to that challenge, I think maybe in rest of rural India there will be that challenge will be also there. We have to go to the digital payment arena in a scenario where we don't have a full bandwidth and we don't have a 4G connection. So, but when there is will, there is a way we can also move something on 2G. I mean, uh, we don't have much best practices available for that. Second important thing would be, is there any model across the country where these hubs, this agriculture or horticulture hubs, are integrated in a manner that it is directly linked to the air cargo for the export of some unique product, agriculture or horticulture product. For example, I will give you a small example. Our apple, I have tasted apple. I've tasted. I mean, I taste it daily. The walnut, the apple. If I go to some store in Mumbai or Delhi, or in any metro store, in a mall, I go to some Reliance store or anything, I see the packed apple. My eyes say that take this pack and bring it to home, and I get that. But when I taste that, that is a nowhere comparison to my apple of Kashmir. So locally the apple produced in India, in nutshell. So because most of the apple is produced in Kashmir Valley, the most of the Indian apple is Kashmir produced in the Kashmir Valley. So what I precisely want to say, apart from this digital platform, uh, which of course will be built simultaneously, if my apple tastes so good, better than the apple of US and China, uh, what can I do to tell that to everybody, that look, my apple is much more juicy and tasty than the apple you're getting from the Reliance store, which is basically from, and how to promote that uh, within the country and to add the value. So that digital payment in private trade was my first question, which I am not getting any reply, that how to actually encourage the digital payment in the private trade of Apple. The second thing is that, is there any cluster somebody has developed in any government has developed in any state, which is an integrated cluster wherein the produce, the grower is directly connected to buyer through some, some sort of mechanism in which air cargo is also involved, if there is no physical transportation available. Those are precisely the things which I want to learn from other states.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hashmi. These are excellent questions. May I ask if our colleagues from Rajasthan would like to answer one or two of these questions? Dr. Babu, if you're still on the line. If not, the question that you asked about the private sector is a really important one. And what we've seen and heard from the presentation from Assam is that the tea estate growers, where the agriculture or the workers are employed, are really important actors in promoting and incentivizing digital payments. And the government has worked quite closely with the Tea Association, which is a body that represents these various private sector tea estates. So I think one of the actions or levers of influence certainly are industry bodies where private sector are part of the membership, like chambers of commerce, for example, for Apple, that might exist. Second is that, Mr. Hashmi, we've seen tremendous ability of government to convene and create that space for dialogue, but also a dialogue that is in favor for the users and their experience in digital payments, whether it's laborers in the agriculture sector, whether it's smallholder farmers, which might include women as well. So I think, these are some of the, at least, thoughts that come to my mind based on what I've heard from the various states today. Mr. Reddy, would you have any specific responses to Mr. Hashmi's questions? If not, the learning session is just the start of this sharing and exchanges of good practices, solutions to commonly occurring challenges, answers to the key questions that occur, whether it's the Kashmir Valley, whether it's the beautiful northeast states or states like Telangana and Karnataka. So at the end of this slide deck, you will see a contact information. What we will be doing is to create some additional conversations and bilateral follow-ups among different states, as well as to bring some of the good practices together again. But I'd just like to take a moment to reflect on the key takeaways that we heard today from all the presentations. One is that, despite the diverse agriculture value chains from apple to tea to a variety of crops that are now being procured and sold through e-commerce initiatives led by the government of India, there are some common themes around the roles of state, especially state leadership in digital payments. And I summarize it in three key actions. One is the opportunity to leverage digital technologies and new fintech partnerships to drive digital usage. Whether it's DBT transfers that is happening, whether it's the wages that we heard about from Assam, whether it's for payments for the procured produce in Kashmir Valley or in Telangana. Secondly, there is a tremendous role that states can play in leading the dialogue and advocacy, both with the central government on improving the foundational infrastructure. Mr. Hashmi, you mentioned that the reality in Kashmir Valley is a 2G reality, not a 4G reality. However, the various digital payment solutions that are coming up, they are not really built around the 2G realities. So one is, building use cases that work for the lived realities of the farmers in these various corners of India, but also being able to work together at the central level to improve the foundational infrastructure, particularly for women as well as the smallholder farmers. The third is that there's tremendous opportunity to engage with industry level associations in agriculture to create that positive incentives for value chain players. Mr. Hashmi, you talked about the private sector partners. We heard from the Assam presentation, from Rajasthan, from Telangana, on positively incentivizing the various middlemen or the brokers. Because they wield a significant influence for eons before, and they will continue to. So really making them part of the solution is and creating a value proposition is going to generate positive outcomes for the farmers. So these are some of the key takeaways that we heard today during the presentation. And as I said, this learning exchange really is a start of an exchange that we hope that we can contribute together with the great partnership and support from MEITI and other parts of the government to bring you more information that you would like to really sort of at the last mile build that inclusive digital payments ecosystem for your communities of farmers that you work with day in, day out. With this, I will leave you with a set of responsible digital payments guidelines. If we move to the next slide, or the slide before that, yes. So these are a set of guidelines that the Better Than Cash Alliance developed, and we're updating it this year together with the Government of India and other members from across the world. And these have really been, great principles through which governments, including state governments, companies, international organizations, are continuing to create more accountability to the end users, such as farmers, in digital payments. And we hope that as you continue your great work across the country, that there will be greater commitment and greater advocacy with your partners on the ground for responsible digitization of payments. And in the last slide, you will see a contact information of my colleague, who many of you have been in touch with her, Suman Seth. Please do reach out to her again if you have any specific questions. We will be following up directly with you to both share the materials that you've seen today in the learning session, as well as the recording of this important conversation that we've had together among each other, among all the states participating with us. With this, may I say thank you very much for your participation, for your leadership, especially in COVID-19, the tremendous work that you are doing. And I wish you a very, very good evening. Thank you so much.